welcome to Meet the Biz. Hey, everybody. Today is like, I don't know. Right now, I'm going, wow, that is how I feel about this because we have an incredible event today. And I'm going to just get out of the way today because our host is the wonderful Diana Elizabeth Jordan. And she's going to take it away. We're going to have a whole group of wonderful people from and creative artists from this new film, LA Crit. Here she is, Diana Elizabeth Jordan.
Hello, that's what I'm doing. I miss you guys so much. I love you too, Sharon. So, guys, about a month ago, in early March, I had the amazing opportunity to be in a new film called LA Grit. That was a really cool opportunity for me because whenever I get cast in a role that's not this is really specific that really means a lot to me. So the film I got LA Grit, I went on set, I met some of the most wonderful people I've ever met. So kind of caring for the great person. So I thought they would be great for a workshop today. And what we're gonna focus on is how a film goes from idea to post-production. Because that we're all in post pre-production for Inglewood Skies. We have the idea, Alvin developed the script, and we are in very much in our pre-production. But we're gonna find out from my amazing guests and 4 new friends, who they are. So I really would like to introduce them. Please give a warm, and let me give a brief visual description. I'm a Black woman. I'm wearing a blue dress with a jacket and shells. And we're on the stage with there are 5 of here on stage, including the interpreter. So I will introduce everyone, and then when they talk about themselves, they give their own brief visual description. So guys, I'm so happy to welcome from LA Grit, director producer Ryan Curtis. I'm Maya Ryan Curtis, producer after David Pinello. I will get together with you guys. So excited to have you guys. And yes, and last but not least, from Hawaii, we got up at 7 a.m. to be with us, producer writer Christina Johnson Harrison.
Guys.
Great time. For those of you online, it's gonna be a little bit more challenging. You get to ask questions, but hopefully I'll ask enough for us to get a really good workshop. All right? All right, guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming, Christina. So my question is for all of you. We'll start with Christina and go around. Give us a brief, after your visual description, give us a little bit of history of your background. And what the specific moments where you knew, oh, I'm gonna work, and then you came up with the directing and the acting. What was that moment when you knew? So Christina, we'll start with you.
I'll go for sure. Yeah, apparently when I was 2 years old, I told my mom I wanted to be an actress. I have no memory of this, but somehow I knew what that was, I guess, when I was 2. So I grew up dancing and performing. My small town didn't really offer a lot of performing arts opportunities except dance. So I did that and sports and went to college, got a degree in something completely different as a backup plan, all the while knowing I would move to LA and pursue this thing the moment I graduated. My car was packed the last day of college. Drove down, did acting school for 2 years, harder than anything I ever did in college. The vulnerability and emotional sort of exposure was very new for me. And yeah, I haven't looked back. I started writing as a way to support my acting career and create opportunities for myself and my fellow actors to act in. I was tired of waiting around for the phone to ring kind of thing. And it just kind of escalated from there. I was always acting and always writing at the same time. I started producing as well to support that and learned so much about how to put a project together, small scale, big scale. And yeah, here I find myself 15 years out of acting school, still doing this crazy thing somehow, some way. So that's the sort of me in a nutshell.
Can you give a brief visual description of what you look like?
A brief description of what I look like. Okay, I'm a female. I'm 41. Not that that matters, but I'm a brunette. I'm Caucasian, and is there anything else I should say?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's go to Ryan.
I'm a white man with a beard, wearing jeans and a t-shirt with some classic Jordan 1s happening. I'm much better looking than David Max.
Oh, you stole my line.
Well,
Yeah, what was that moment for you? Give us the back on them. Did you have a moment when you're like, oh yeah, this is good.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a small town just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and where I grew up, filmmaking wasn't a real job that you think about. So, you know, as I grew up as a kid, I would make movies with our little VHS recorders, and I'd edit them in camera and then show them to the school. And what I realized looking back is I was actually directing before I knew what directing was, right? And so I would tell my friends what to do, what to say, where to go, and how to do it, all while shooting with a camera. And you know, not till years later realized that's kind of is a real career and something that I want to do. So I went to college. I played some sports in college, and then while I was in college, I joined the military. I did 8 years in the U.S. Army, captain of the Army. I got out, and I was trying to figure out my direction, what I was going to do, and I took some acting classes, and I took got some jobs as a production assistant on some film sets, and quickly realized that I wanted to be in Los Angeles, so I moved to LA, and then just started grinding here in LA, trying to figure out a path for myself, and I didn't know what that meant. And it took a few years, but ultimately realized that directing was what I wanted to do. And in order to direct, you need to write, you need to be able to shoot, you need to be able to produce, you need to do all these things in order to be a director. And so that's kind of what I did.
Cool. Dave?
Yes, ma'am. So my name is David B. Meadows. I am a 6'1", about 210-pound Caucasian male. I'm about 42, but I identify as 21. So all my lines.
Yeah.
Literally, these are my jokes. Wow.
And
And I'm slumming it today because I'm going to head to the gym thereafter. And thank you guys
thanks for messing up.
Yeah, you're welcome, Lenny. And thank you guys for having us. I was actually, unlike some of these guys like Max and Christina and people, and I'm sure many of you out there, I did not know that I wanted to be in the entertainment business. As a matter of fact, for the first 13 years of my adulthood, I was a Navy SEAL sniper with the SEAL teams in the military spectral operations community. And I actually started acting inadvertently because I was in a program that was basically going to lead to undercover work with the government. And I started taking acting classes as part of that whole thing. And instead of actually doing that program, I ended up getting out of the military, taking a break for a little while, and literally started in corporate America, realized that I hated that and it was not for Dave whatsoever. And so I decided on a whim, why don't I try acting? Just because I love the training so much in the military. So on a complete whim, I went and auditioned for a play just to see what it was like. Had never thought about acting in my life, and they cast me and gave me the lead of the play.
Wow.
First audition I ever did, got an agent, so on and so forth. And then very quickly I realized I wanted to get more serious with it. I actually started off training at a Meisner program, very similar to probably what you guys are doing here,
Right.
you know, a few nights a week, 3 hours a night. Then I went to school and actually went to a 2-year vocational program up in New York. Max and I are actually alum mates and went to the Michael Howard Conservatory. After graduating from there, I went back to an MFA style 1-year vocational school, a place called the Studio of New York. And then I went to Europe with the Prague Shakespeare Company. And so basically for all those years, I was traveling back and forth between going to school, doing theater, doing television, film, just, kind of working and training for about 8 years or so. And then I finally moved to Los Angeles. And the way that I started off into producing was actually I had a friend that was doing a movie. We were all doing it together. He and I had done multiple together. And the movie started falling apart. People started, as they do, and things started falling out and crew and everything. And so I talked to him, was like, oh, hey, dude, what do you need? Because I was an actor on the movie and I wanted to act. I didn't want the whole thing to fall apart. And so he kept asking, he's like, oh, dude, do you know a person for this and a person for this and a person for this? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I know those people. I can call those people. So eventually he's like, well, dude, we should give you a credit for this. I'm like, a credit for what? He's like, well, with the person that calls people and gets people together on a team. I'm like, no, what do they do that? He's like, oh, it's called a producer. So, you should do that. And that's basically how I started.
It sounds like you're still in recovery. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
A lot of
Probably.
trauma and a lot of different identities. I don't know.
So my name's Max Martini. I'm 6 foot, 205 exactly. I am an actor, director, writer, producer. I was born in New York. My father was a sculptor, and my mother was kind of in law enforcement when I was growing up, but yet creative. Always was dabbling in things creative. So I knew that I wanted to do something creative, and I dabbled in acting as a kid, and then I went to college for fine arts. And then when I got out of college, I had a huge debt to pay, so I got into acting to pay off my debt, and then the rest is history. But I met Dave on a movie called Captain Phillips, which was a big movie with Tom Hanks. Paul Greengrass directed it. He came on and actually had a role in it, and we were on screen quite a bit together. And then Dave introduced me to Ryan, and
Sorry about that.
yeah, it's okay. It's all right. Just don't do it again.
Oh,
And so anyway, Ryan, the three of us have been collaborating, and Ryan cast me in LA Grit, which he wrote with Christina, and that's how we are sitting here on stage together.
Sorry
was
about
written for him, everyone. The movie was written for him. Just
And that actually was my next question. You guys are like, I was let you talk. I think you answered me all my questions. But how did LA Grit come together, and how, you guys all knew each other, but and the development of it, it was an informed map. So how collaborative it was, because you and Christina wrote it, but what was the collaboration in terms of the idea of working together, and then from there to script, what was that process like?
Yeah, so I was supposed to direct a horror movie last year during the strike, and because of the strike, we weren't able to get a waiver in order to go into production. And so while we were trying to figure that out, we had also just wrapped another a television project that Christina and I wrote, I directed, and both Max and Dave were a part of it. And after working with Max on this, I had an idea for a character for Max, and while we were waiting for that other movie to happen, I pitched Christina. I was like, well, what if we do something with this character for Max and we try to shoot it here in LA? And so we just started, that's kind of how it started. And we started pitching ideas back and forth. And then that quickly led to like, oh, this is really fun. We could do this, we could do that. We can do a whole bunch of stuff here in Los Angeles. And then I don't know how fast we started putting stuff like that.
let me just add something just to give you guys an understanding of the process working with this man. Okay, so he calls me and says, I want to put Max as a lead in a movie where he's always beat up. Okay, he's beat up and he's hurting. I want to destroy this man. It just would be so funny. Okay, and also I want to see Dave in a cowboy outfit the entire movie. And I'm sitting here like, Ryan Curtis, why do you come to me with these ridiculous ideas? And then somehow we have to fit that into a story. So those are two of the, parameters we had to work with, in addition to some other characters or casting choices that were friends with the executive producer, Scott. So it's just like, for those of you out there who are writers, right? There's so many different ways that a story can come about. And oftentimes you have the script before you have the money, and you're trying to get money raised for a specific script. But we had the kind of reverse. We had some funding, and we had to build a script around the limitations of shooting in LA with the access to locations we had. And of course, because Ryan and I don't know how to think that small, we made a much bigger movie than we anticipated based on sort of this little, this box that was being built for us, either by Ryan's ideas or the money and access to locations and actors. So I just want to throw that in there.
What was your writing process? I mean, did you, because you're in Hawaii a lot of the time, so with you two as writers, well, how did you guys meet? Because how did you two meet each other, you and Ryan?
How did Ryan and I meet?
Yeah.
We met, we,
Probably short. Film
yeah,
festival. Yeah.
we met at a film festival. She had a film in it, and I had a film in it, and we met at one of the filmmaker events.
Oh, cool.
And then that was, I think, a little bit before COVID. Then COVID happened, and during COVID, we started a writers group, and Christina and I started writing together, and we wrote, I think, 3 feature films and a handful of other projects during COVID together. And we realized that our voices work very well together, and she's really great with dialogue and really the minutia of character, and I'm very good with story structure and overall idea stuff. And when we come together, it just works very well. So that's kind of how we met and how we started writing. Want to add anything?
Yeah, and I think training, like I don't want to say training, but because the COVID, we worked that muscle of working virtually together regularly, we got that kind of down. And so LA Grit was really built when I was in transition of moving to Hawaii, and it was done over the phone. We have Google Docs, we have a shared script we send back and forth. There's been a few different ways we've approached writing as a team. I think a lot of times, there's really no set way. I think we've done it where we share scenes back and forth. We've done it where, we outline together, I'll go in and I'll do dialogue, he'll make notes. Like it's kind of, we don't have necessarily like a set way, it's project specific. Because we've also had the luxury a couple years ago, we did the pilot of sitting together in a room and just writing, together and laughing. And it's always, how stupid can we make this and how funny is it? If it's funny to us, we're not sure if anybody else needs to find it funny, right? So as long as we're both laughing, I think we're onto something. Yeah.
There's one thing I wanted to just comment and add is Ms. Denton also said, and Ryan referred to, most of this movie came around with the idea of saying, instead of looking to what we don't have, what do we have? What locations do we have? What equipment? Who do we know? What actors? What everything like that. And really starting a story and saying, what can we create with what we have readily available right there? And I think that that's something that is incredibly powerful and oftentimes overlooked in the filmmaking process. So many people sit back and they say, oh, I wish I had this, or I could if only. And oftentimes that's not true. If we actually sit down and look around, I'm sure all of you guys in the room, if you really put your heads together and your research together, you'd find that you probably have the large majority of what you really need to create a story and to create a project together. And I think that that's just incredibly valuable.
I'll add to that if you want. So, we're all at a really incredible, amazing moment in this business in that, you can make movies on these now, right? And you can sell it, and people are doing it. So it's, there's my experience with working with these guys was so wonderful because there was no ego. It was a group of friends making a really well-written script, and with really developed, beautifully developed characters, and it was very collaborative, right? So we all got to, without ego, bring something to the table, and if it worked, it worked. If it didn't work, it didn't work, and there were no hard feelings. We just kept moving forward. But it was I encourage everyone to make their own films because you kind of have to do that now. Like Ryan was saying, you have to at least try to make movies and, and be active in that capacity because it's so competitive out there and everyone is doing it. So if you have, these kind of resources, to take advantage of this community of filmmakers, which is, you guys, is really valuable.
There's also this just caveating on that. There's this little bit of a partial truth, but misnomer that money solves all the issues in a project. And oftentimes, I mean, yes, there is a necessity of financial means to get things done. But at a certain level, oftentimes money just makes things bigger and more probably, or more this or more that. My point being is you'd be surprised what you can create on a very little. Diana was telling us that you guys are shooting a movie and are mainly just going to shoot it here in the location. And what that does is it forces you to be creative and have ingenuity on how you set up shots. How can I use the same space 10 times and make it look like 10 different locations? And that's really what the filmmaking process is about, solving problems creatively with the resources that you have.
And I add to that if I can, Diana, just one more thing. Like for those of you who are like, I just want to be an actor or I just want to be a writer or something like that, playing those other parts on set, right? Producing, putting a project together, writing, like it makes you a better storyteller. I became such a better actor on set when I knew what the role of every single person. I mean, you have crews that are hundreds and hundreds of people. And if you understand what each one of them need from you as the actor, it makes you a better team player, right? And understanding that, actors are quite replaceable until they're in front of the camera, right? And it's humbling, but it helps you just have a better idea of how the whole thing works as a system and not just you are the artist. In acting school, it's all about the acting and the craft, and you don't understand how the whole machine works of putting a project together. So it's really valuable to put yourself in those other roles and sometimes play another part just to have that perspective. So I just wanted to share.
I have a question for you because you are an actor and a wonderful actor because I've seen you real. Did you specifically choose not to give yourself a role in this because you could have, because you paid it? So I wonder if it was like, so it just was that a choice you made specifically not to write something for yourself?
I think it's project specific. I mean, certainly the part of me and my actor heart always wants to be a part of everything that I create. That's why I started writing in the first place. I love writing and it's so fun for me to see these characters come to life. And I think I cried every single day the first week of Tears of Joy, just watching these phenomenal actors bring these words to life. And so I think it's just project specific. On LA Grit, like there really wasn't a specific role for me that was perfect for me. It would have been like me kind of edging my way in, but it's every project is just different. And so I sort of make that call based on like, I know, I try to be realistic and say, hey, like, I know I'm not a superstar and I'm not adding star power or whatever it is that we're looking for this particular role. It's kind of my journey of like, you get to a certain point and they go, well, if you want to really sell this thing, you've got to get a star in your thing, in your spot. And so I'm kind of finding my way of where I can voice and sort of fight and say, hey, no, this is my role versus like, I understand it's a smarter business choice to pass this role off. So it's a blessing to be at this phase because I love that I have even to have that decision to make. But that's definitely something, it's just very project specific for me.
Matt, and because you say it's so collaborative as actors, the development of your characters, you had a lot to say of how you wanted their arcs and storylines to go with a specific thing that you may have wanted to challenge yourself as an actor that these characters coupling with allowed you to do that. That makes sense.
I thought it was actually just for me on that. I have my process that I like to do and everything, but I think that one of the interesting things that was a unique challenge for me, and I learned so much, was that Max and I have been good friends for over a decade now,
Right.
you know? And in this movie, we're completely at odds together. So it was an interesting way to create authentic chemistry in relationship that was in contrast to our real life relationship.
Right.
So I thought that that was a really interesting way to work with him. And just a challenge that I hadn't really faced actually on any roles that I've done before.
And how about you?
Well, I, you know, as an actor have been, in the really dramatic and real dramatic characters for so long and, dying to do a comedy. And so when these guys cast me in their pilot, it was borderline broad comedy and it was so much fun. And so, you know, Brian and Christina said they wrote this for me. So I mean, it's the only thing I've ever read where I went, there's nothing for me to do really. It's all on the page. Like I just got to come in and you know, add some, you know, my whatever touch to it. But it was
Try to act.
try to act. I feel like it was kind of tailor made. I mean, it was tailor made for me, and so therefore it was very easy. And he and I, you know, the thing that because we already have a standing friendship, the chemistry on screens there. You know, I knew a lot of the other cast members, and so it just all made sense. You know,
One of the other things I was just going to talk about just a little bit is as actors, of course, when we go out and work, we'll work with a multitude of different directors, especially,
right.
you know. And I think that one of the really unique things, so I've worked with directors all through theater and television, film, and everything, and they all have their own unique style, of course, and what their idea of what directing really is. One of the things I really do genuinely enjoy with working with Ryan is because he and I are such good buddies and we do know things. It literally gives me a sense of a safety net.
Mhm.
Like I can know I can go out there and make a huge choice and I can do this and I can do that. I'm not going to get fired, you know,
Right,
and I'm not, and Ryan's not going to let me look stupid in the
Right,
process.
right.
So I really do feel that I can go out and kind of just go balls to the wall, so to speak. And I know that he's there watching the monitor the whole time. And I think that's a really interesting and really precious thing if you can tap into that with, and it's all together, create with people that
Right.
you know, and create a team together.
So Ryan, as a director, because you're working on what are some of the things that are part of your pre-production process as a director? What are the things that
I think
you?
90% of the work happens before you get to set as a director.
Mhm.
And so, you know, every single decision that people end up seeing is made before we get to set. And so most of that work is really just, you know, alone in front of a computer, making shot lists, making creative choices, going through like all of the character arcs and you know, all the choices for the wardrobe and creative conversations with all your key department heads and creative conversations with the actors and you know, the locations, like all of those decisions come before you get to set.
Right.
And then when you get to set, if you've made those decisions or, you know, everything's an issue in production, like there's always problems. And like Dave was saying, it's all about problem solving. So when you get to set, all you should be doing is problem solving and then helping your actors elevate what's on the page. And so the good thing, you know, for us is like, you know, all of these guys and you know, the cast that we have, including yourself, you know, took like the nugget of an idea on the page and then just did it 10 times better than we ever could have imagined. And so like just being able to do that while guiding the performance and the ship so that we're consistent across the board. I mean, I think that's kind of, at least for me, that's what I try.
can I ask how many actors are in the audience?
There's a lot. You
Are there a lot?
raise your hand. How many of you are, don't embarrass me right now. Hey, what do I teach you every day? Raise your hand.
You know, I wanted to add that because one thing that these guys said that's really important is having trust and faith in your director and knowing that he, at the end of the day, this is his baby and he's not going to let anything, he's not going to move forward to another scene until he has exactly what he needs. And when he does move past the scene that you're doing, you have to know that you look good, right? And it's really important as an actor to have that faith in who you're collaborating with and who's at the helm of the ship, right? And I know for me as an actor, one of the things, and this is like sort of technique schooling, I've studied a lot, and had a theater company in New York that I started. We did a lot of plays, but I grew and sort of blossomed as an actor when I was able to go, okay, I've trained enough. Now, when I go on to the job, I'm going to leave the technique at the door, right? And so I go into a scene without any preconceived ideas of what I want the scene to be like. I usually try to avoid reading stage descriptions, to be honest, and so that it's like a tennis match. If Dave hits, some top spin, I can return with this, but it's all improvising, right? So you put the game together while you're blocking and you're rehearsing, but you show up on set just available to explore and see what you can come up with on the day without sort of locking yourself into, the scene has to be this way and I have to do this to look good. And this is recommend that you abandon those thoughts and just show up and see what happens and start from zero.
It's really just caveating on that. It's really interesting. Ryan commented earlier that 90% of directors' work happens before you get on the set, right? Say 95% of an actor's work happens before you get onto the set. All the homework, all the stuff I'm sure that you're teaching here, but just exactly like what Max was saying. Once you have done that work as your homework, whatever happens in the scene authentically between you and your scene partner is going to be a million times more brilliant and captivating than any brilliant idea that you walked into. Whatever happens authentically in the moment, and just like what Max is saying, just embrace that and trust that that's really where the gold is truly at. And just like what Ms. Denton was saying earlier on about knowing everybody, not just the director, but every single crew member on there, your cinematographer, your lighting people, everybody exists to try to make the actor as good as you possibly can for what's on there. So the more you understand what their process is and how you can use your work to help facilitate and to reciprocate with everybody, the better everybody is going to benefit from it.
And if I
And
can
know
just
that no one is judging your work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
just to add to that, I think since we're talking to actors, like one of the things that, I learned so much, or I was reminded of as an actor watching this whole process of this movie is, oftentimes we get so locked in as an actor into our specific role and our character and what we think we need to be doing to sort of tell the story, but we're not thinking about the whole picture and how we fit as one puzzle piece in the whole story, right? And so oftentimes when we're so locked in for like what David Max were saying, when you get this idea of what you want to do and you're locked in, you forget like, oh wait, the person I'm talking to is actually somebody that I'm in a fight with. So if I'm saying I love you, it's not that I love, like, right? Like it's how I'm going to say that to them in this specific moment. And then how does that impact the whole story? And so script analysis and script interpretation are so essential as you're building your acting skills. And if you don't understand a scene that you're in, you don't understand a moment or whatever, there is no shame. Like as a writer, as a producer, and I have actors ask me questions, why is this and this and that? I'm happy to explain it, right? I'd rather explain and talk through a moment or a character or a scene and then watch it in real time be misinterpreted, and then we have to like readjust and go back because time is money on set, right? And so if you're lost or you're confused and you just take a guess, it's much better to kind of work those things out ahead of time just to get the clarity so that everybody's telling the same story, right? So your job as an actor is to really work the muscle of going, okay, I understand I'm in the scene. How do I fit into this entire movie or this entire show? And if you don't understand it, talk through it, ask questions, and get clarity because it's only going to help serve the whole piece.
And I was gonna caveat, Christine and I had a great talk, because there was, a scene that I had where it had my character crying, and I just felt at that point I would be really angry. And Christina was so open, and we really talked about that scene, which I can't tell you about. You have to see the movie. However, I was very grateful that you were really open to just hearing what my thoughts were and not be like, oh no, that's stupid, you had to cry. So I really thank you for that. So.
You guys, Diana is so good in this movie, just so you know. Like, she's amazing in this movie. And I was lucky enough to work with her.
Yeah, all I think was not. So speaking of casting, because I know there were probably some offers, but when you were casting the role that you cast, I'm gonna move me out of the way, but what were the kind of things that you were looking for? And about how many actors did you get per, was like, I'm the only one, so you had to say,
No.
no, really. But what were you looking for and what made you make some of the choices that you made as a director? And it was for you, that was it a team effort to make the casting decision, or was it mainly?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like all decisions come down to what I decide as far
Okay.
as casting, but it's a collaboration with everybody.
Okay.
And so like I'd like to say, I usually what happens is I will, for auditions will come in, I will whittle down to the like handful of ones that I like.
Okay.
And then I'll pass it around to the team and say, hey, is there anyone in here that you like? Who stands out? What do you guys think? Does this work in the overall picture? And then everybody kind of gives feedback, and especially our core creators and being, you know, Christina and Dave and Max and a couple of our other producers. And so really like, I don't open it up. I don't open a wide net,
Right.
but it's just the core people who are involved to make those decisions and give feedback. But one of the things I don't think people realize is that when you're casting a project, like there's a lot of mandates and certain things that like SAG says that you need to get. And for us, we had a diversity situation in our SAG contract. And so we had to hit a certain number of diverse roles, which is, it's fine and that's easy. And that what that does is that kind of dictates, like if you make a choice here with a cast member, then you have to choose something else with another cast member here. And so there's a bit of a puzzle piece like that. And so really it's like we came in with our ideas of what we wanted for the roles, and then we do character descriptions and here's what we think, and then we put it out and the auditions come in, or you go through the audition process. And then what I look is for someone that just completely stands out, makes it their own, and maybe even makes me think about the role a little bit differently. And that's why we cast you. Right, because we received probably, you know, from over 150, 200 auditions in the role that you played, Gladys. And it wasn't a diversity mandated role. It was just, you know, this woman is Gladys. She lives next to our main character. And all these things. And then when I was going through the auditions, your audition stood out so much. And it was a way that I didn't even think about that role. I was like, wow, this is incredible. And so we passed your audition around to the team, and I was like, what do you guys think? How does this work? And no matter who we put you up against, you were better. And
It was very natural and it was very interesting.
yeah,
You know, your choices and you know, I'll add, having seen, you know, it's funny because when you're on the other side of the camera, when Ryan was sharing auditions, you start looking at people's auditions, because you're not in the room with other actors, obviously, when they're auditioning, so you don't know what's out there. You know, I'll save you 20 years right now with this advice. Every time I tried to swing as hard as I could with an audition and hit a home run, I wouldn't get it. every time. The minute I went in and just said the words and listened to who I was acting with and responded and kept it simple, just get on first base. That's it. I started working, and I started working with really big directors, really big. But it only happened when I stopped trying to win Oscars with my auditions, you know. And it takes actors so long to have to be brave enough to give up an opportunity to be in a movie and just try to get to first base. You know, it's really, I promise you, I give that advice to everybody that asks, that's starting out, and it's gold, you know. And your audition was so beautiful and so simple, and just the choices were subtle and interesting, and you know, and I don't know, there were maybe 8, 9 women that
We could say
you had whittled down to, and you were by far the best choice.
and you got the role.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
fine, I appreciate it.
Got it. No. And one more thing before she moves on. The other thing about one of the impressive things that I think about when you see actors in the industry, and Diana did this very, very well, is that any actor can get hired once. Show me an actor that consistently gets rehired by the same people again and again and again, and that actor is doing something really well. Because there is the aspect of come on set, do your job, and be a good actor. That there's the other aspect of being a good person to have on set. If you were a person that other people just love to work with, that not only show up and are great actors, but are just people that actually add to the team and make the job easier, because stuff on set is just screwed up all the time. There's always going to be delays. There's always going to be things going on. And the more that an actor could show up, work with the director, and when Ryan is sitting there going, this day is this way, and she can just show up and take a little bit of stress off of his plate and actually make the job easier, that's when you're going to get rehired again and again and again.
I gotta remember that because we talk about being a team player a lot, and that's so important. So thank you for re-emphasizing that. So, one of the, I'm gonna, let's do it out. Any of you guys, before I move on, do any of you guys have a question? Anybody?
No, that's something else.
Okay, what is the,
So do you know how long if you've been like a acting career?
how long have they been acting?
Yeah,
Well, about how many years you mean?
yeah.
How many years?
For me?
Yeah, but both, no, not they know you guys.
Oh, I started acting in July of 2010, and I've been doing it ever since then. So almost 14 years now.
Well,
I started dabbling when I was very young, but I started making a living as an actor when I was about 25.
So last year.
So last year.
right.
Yeah.
I do know that we love the pitch deck. I mean, so what was the decision? Did you go with a more noir as a, I mean, it can be an action. It can be an action film, but you also have that noir vibe. And so what, for both of you as directors in the team, what was your decision to add that additional genre to it as opposed to just a action, you know,
Yeah.
you kind of added this to a without giving too much away, there's the parent there, the father-daughter relationship, and you're adding all these things, and then you're adding this noir. So what was their decision to add that to
I think
the film?
from very early on, or I think both with Christina and I's taste, are we want to do something that stands out and we like genre bending and
Right,
melding.
right.
And so I specifically like to do stuff that's more stylized, both visually, how the camera moves, how I shoot it, and we built, the idea of this movie around the stylized genre blend of an action and a noir. And so, do you have anything else to add, Christina?
I think sometimes, the way we built this, it was really dictated on the story. And once we sort of had our elements of character and the main sort of setting being around a nightclub, a jazz club, it just made sense to lean into that, and Max's character being a PI, and like we were like, and it sort of just was natural. And I don't think any of the projects that Ryan and I have ever created, and I think it just has to do with our brains, is it ever really fit in a specific box, because it's just not interesting to us, right? And I don't even know if it's as much as we're trying to stand out, Ryan. Honestly, I think we're just weirdos. Like, no, I think our brains are just interested in things that don't fit in a box. And so we lean into, well, is this interesting to us? Is this entertaining to us? Well, then let's keep going down that path. And it just,
I
yeah.
don't want to be doing things that other people have done.
Right.
I want to do something that's slightly different. Make a slight little change and
Yeah, just mess it up a little bit.
already out there.
So who all is in here? Are there singers in here as well?
Yes, they are.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Oh, wow, a lot of
Yeah.
singers.
So in this particular movie, as they were just talking about, we actually had 10 original or 8 original.
It's 8 original songs.
So 8 original and then 2 redone songs from the 1920s, 30s, like jazz burlesque style stuff. So we ended up casting a lot of women that were not only actresses, but wonderful, wonderful singers as well. So
It's not that first.
neither was I. So it's going to be interesting. The whole movie has an incredible soundtrack and a vibe, and a really cool action noir drama mixed with musical. It's pretty cool.
And this is big for we're going with the Motown style, so we're writing about Alexander 4 or 5 original Motown style, because Joe over there, Joe and Alexander Wade, he is there, and Alexander the composer, Joe the music director. So we're working on having five original Motown style songs that they got, and then Lindsay over there is going to be a choreographer. So we do offer all that, and so they're working on and people that were working on all the original music
Fantastic.
right
Cool.
now. So
Really cool.
it's really cool. All right, so you have some kind of legendary actors in this film. How did you land? I mean, there were auditions, but how were the direct offers, and how were you able to get actors like, Benita Martinez and Patrick Duffy and Linda Brill, who are also, I mean, they're legendary actors, especially Patrick Duffy. And I remember them when I was
Yeah.
a kid, and I'm a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
I will just tell you, Patrick Duffy is an absolute joy, and every single scene, he just like steals moments from every scene. He's just so phenomenal. We're so lucky to have gotten all of those actors. Our whole cast, I think, was just really amazing. But most of our cast came through personal relationships, right? And so so Max knew Benito. And so Max, opened the door for conversations with Benito, and he said, "Hey, if this works, great." And then we were able to like close the deal with Benito. And the same thing happened with Patrick and Linda, because of personal relationships through people. We were able to get through different people, and at this point in my career as a director, that's what I have to do. It's very difficult for me just to make a phone call and big actors, not answer the phone at this point.
In reality, he makes a phone call and Max and I won't answer.
Yeah. So yeah, personal relationships, and then we had some other actors. We had Tyrese Gibson that was on, and we had we went through a direct offer to him But again, it was through other personal relationships that like thought that this would be good for him, and so we started negotiations that way. And then you have to go through the whole legal and contract process and do that, and that's not fun. So
So be nice, guys, be nice, it's like you telling you guys, be nice. So let's, with production, what were you been through, what were some of the challenges you found, and maybe you can answer this during production as far as like a day to day, and how were you problem solving, on a day to day, because I'm sure problems
yeah, well, yeah.
well, how were you problem solving and still keeping your sanity?
That's a good question. No, you have to have a good team around you, and I think we're lucky enough to have a group of folks that were very motivated to like be working hard and problem solving. And I mean, we had every problem you could have imagined on a movie we had and went through, but we lose locations or lose potential actors last minute, or lose the costumes didn't show up correctly. There's just all these little things that happen constantly, and you just have to trust that the people that you hire and that work with you can solve the problems and get through it. And then ultimately, like, just when you have to be creative to figure out ways around it if things don't work perfectly, which they never do. So yeah, I know for you guys, I think your problems are different than like on the production side when things pop up for you guys. What's that?
I mean, some of the things that oftentimes happen as an actor, of course, is just like what we've already talked about with your technique and your process or whatever, and all your education and doing your homework, right? Doing all that work. But when you step on set, being ready to flex, like that is the biggest thing that I think that education and training, and really gives you that ability. Because I cannot tell you the amount of times on these movies, working with Ryan, or just on other productions that I've been on, I do all my work and then I show up and the director goes, great. So we're going to do this totally different thing now. Like I wrote you a new script and you just have to get the job done and flex and actually move in order to be a service to the team and actually do that stuff. And that happens more times than I can count. It happens on the regular where things just totally get thrown at you at the last minute.
Matt, I have a specific question for you, because your character goes through such an emotional journey, not giving anything away, I know, because I read the script. So how were you able, not only physically, but emotionally? So how were you able to kind of take care of Max, the accident, they'll be able to do what Britt needs to do and go through that physical and emotional journey? How were you able to?
I mean, the emotional stuff is kind of, the meat of the character, right?
Exactly. Right.
So it's, I think, I think it all comes back to just trusting, yourself as an artist, that you can do it, right? And then it's just making interesting choices. So, it's like if I have to cry, on camera, what's more interesting to me is not seeing somebody trying to cry, but seeing somebody trying not to cry. So, I just trust that I can do it. I let it go, and then I fight it. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with acting drunk. It's like, if you're in a bar and you have too much to drink, suddenly it hits you, and you try to sober up real quick, right? So on camera, generally, unless you're playing a frat boy in Vegas on the spring break, you want to try to fight being drunk and act sober with a little subtlety. So I mean, that's the hardest thing that I had to deal with as an actor on the show, is just making things interesting. And maybe when you're a team and you're all collaborating, and something goes wrong, like you lose a location, you feel it emotionally because you're part of the team and you want to win, right? But for me, the most challenging thing is just to make interesting choices.
I can't see where we on time, so they can't.
It's noon right now.
Okay, good, but we got about 10 more, okay? Great. So I have a question about, because you all wear multiple hats as producers and actors, writers, and those are very different roles. So were there, days when you had to make think more the producer and, actor, or were they, when you were acting, you guys especially, you did that after the were there days when you had to say, oh, now I have to make a producer, we had to meet as producers, but then you guys are also doing a preparation as actors and directors. So what was that process like? Does that make sense?
Well, I think most of the producer role stuff for the actors, we try to make happen before we're on set, because we do our best, or I try to do my best to not have to deal with anything when it comes to acting, right? Because like Max was just saying, I can't even imagine how difficult that is when things are going wrong and then all of a sudden he has to step on set and still deliver an emotional performance.
Right.
That's really hard. And so I do my best to not allow that to happen. I'm sure that's not always the case, but yeah, it's really hard for me to separate the two as a director and producer, just because they've been lockstep since day one on this project specifically.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, like I said, it's all about trying to delegate the best you can, and then being able to lean into the creative process of the director or the actor and how we judge.
Yeah, I think he just encapsulated it perfectly. I know on the set, Ryan did an incredibly good job, as well as the rest of the team, Justin and Brian and everybody. Of the days that I was there as an actor, and especially when I had pretty heavy emotional or that sort of scene, they did the absolute best to not ask me to be production and let all of my energy go to that place and stay in that creative, vulnerable headspace. And then the other days when I was wrapped and wasn't on set, then I could actually do production stuff. So again, it's in communication with your team and actually understanding and having everybody take care of one another. It's like has been talked about multiple times. It's trust.
Right.
And
Quickly, but how do you guys, you talked about your process, what are the specific things you do in your process to prepare? You bring your home, do you use music? What are the things that you use to prepare to go on set?
I mean, I kind of briefly just mentioned that I try to do all the work before I get there, and then I try to forget all the work that I've done once I'm on set. Like when we were doing our scene, there's there's a handful of moments that were completely unplanned. Like when I show up and you're sweeping and I sort of see you and then think about leaving, and then because I don't really want to get busted by you, right?
Right.
So I mean, there was some comedy in that, but it was all very organic, and I just try to let things kind of happen and see. The problem is when things aren't happening. So let's say you're doing a scene with somebody that can only do it one way, has made up their mind that this is the way they're going to do the scene. That's when it becomes difficult. So that's when you kind of have to fall back on, okay, I got to save this somehow and keep it natural and, try to play ball with somebody that can't really play ball. So it's that's when you have to sort of bluff your way through.
What's your process to get to that point? How do you?
If I find myself
No,
at that point.
Before you get to set, what is your?
Oh, I mean, well, I do. So I have a list of questions that I run through when I break a scene down, right? And the real basic acting questions. What do I want from the scene? Where am I coming from? Where am I going? I look at the script and I figure out what my arc is, where I start and where I end, and what the most interesting route to take as an actor for this journey would be, right? And how does this character grow, right? And what are his faults? And really kind of accentuate his faults and his victories. So I try to find moments throughout the script where he has little victories or where you really see him at his most vulnerable state and, and pepper those in, right? And then that's just kind of emotional preparation. And then again, you check it at the door and you go in and try to make it happen. What's your process, Dave?
No, I kind of started similar to what was talked about earlier. I try to start, first thing I do, I read the script 5 times from 5 different angles, like from my point of view, from everyone else's point of view, from the audience, all these different things to understand what the arc is and the dramaturgical need of it, to break it into acts, so on and so forth. And then I understand what my character's purpose is in the script and then what my arc is, and then understand every single scene like therein where I have to be at in order to tell this bigger story. And then once I get there, then I start just nailing down things like relationship. Like I make sure that I know every single very, very detailed how I feel about everybody else, everything that's going on. And then once I kind of get to all of that sort of a thing, I like to look at it as making a sandbox for myself. I'm really trying to get into the realm of how the character thinks, what they do. Like this character, I'm a photographer in this. We never use it on screen, but I actually started going and shooting photos
Wow.
because it's such even though I never do it on screen, but because it's such an integral part of that character's way that he views the world. Like I started to do a lot of those sorts of things and then narrow it down. And the more that I find that I can kind of get into the character's headspace and live in the character's world, I create a sandbox so that when things go crazy on set or you're in a scene where maybe somebody isn't as adaptable or whatever, it doesn't matter because I know the world that I'm creating from. And so I can just kind of flex and build from there.
Chris, can I ask, Christina, is this kind of do you have the same process as a writer? Same
Yeah.
question?
No, I think you guys are sharing some really incredible tips. And I think to add to that, something that just like, I don't know how many of you guys have worked on like a big film where you're shooting scenes completely out of order, right? So it's very unnatural, right? A play, you show up, you get to live and breathe this thing for the entire arc of it. So you really get to carry the emotional through line consistently throughout. Film is so different. TV is so different. But when you're dealing with a film, right? I mean, something we shot 2 weeks ago, it's hard to remember what your character's emotional state was or how you ended that scene. And so when you're walking into the next scene that follows in the script, again, it's 2 weeks later, who the heck remembers? We've done so much between that. So I think this process ahead of time, one of the things I've done as an actor too is create a map almost of the arc, right? And so I label like the arc of the whole character and then where the scenes fall. And so that I can refer back to that and then go, okay, I remember 2 weeks ago we did that thing. I came out of it this way and we kind of did it. So that way when I'm going in the next scene, I have all that coming with me instead of just starting from like, wait, where, it's like, it sort of helps track the emotional state of your character throughout the whole process when you're shooting in such a completely disjointed, unnatural way to tell the story. So as a writer, I think it's similar, we track like we start big picture and then we start moving inside. Sometimes it's fun to just write a scene and I have it tells once I'm in the scenes that like it opens up something so new in the story that now I have to go back and kind of adjust it as we go. And then one of the things Ryan and I will do toward the end of the process is we go through the script with, just like Dave was saying, with the perspective of one character. Okay, let's look at only Dave's character scenes and just look at how he's evolving and changing throughout the script. Are we missing something? Is the audience left out of a piece of information about his backstory that we need to somehow add in as a piece of wardrobe or a prop that's going to help illuminate who this person really is? And so we try to, it's so many different passes with so many different lenses on to make sure we're really elevating every single character and every single relationship and clue, especially because this is like a mystery. Where are all the clues? Where are all the little things we're dangling for the audience? What does the audience know versus what do the characters know? There's just so many different ways you have to look at the story. So it's a lot of work, but it's very fun.
Seriously, guys, I could probably do this for 5 more hours, but I promise them I'm gonna do that for 2 weeks. And when I have a final question, kind of a 2-part. What was the biggest lesson you learned about yourself doing this project? And what advice would you give to us? So tip about what did you learn about yourself? And what's one piece of advice you'd like to give to our guide kids? So we'll start with Christina. What's the biggest lesson you learned about yourself?
Oh, I oh my gosh, on this particular project.
Yes.
Um, to let's see. I think you know there's something energetic about when you're on set and a lot of times writers are not on set. Let me just start there, right? Very exciting that I got to be on set, and that was really generous of Ryan to have me there and just for to be a part of the process. But for me, story is God, right? All that I care about when I'm watching something that I've written come to life is the story being told? Are we finding the truth in every single moment? Is it being told? And I think, it was like 10, 12 hours a day. I'm just staring at the monitor, making sure every single nuance is being illuminated. And it was this beautiful giving all this energy out. And it was like reminding me, and I would forget to eat. I would forget to sit down. I would, it's my brain is just spinning. Like I couldn't sleep at night because I'm just like, oh, okay, tomorrow, and there is I'm sick now and I'm not surprised because like you forget to take care of yourself when you're out there just pouring out energy, trying to support this beautiful thing coming to life. And so I would say one of the lessons that I learned was just making sure in the lead up time to this, and I had far less work to do in the prep than Ryan did and Matt, I will say that, but was just remembering like, okay, you can't pull from an empty well. You have to make sure like basic needs need to be met, when you're so invested in something. And so it was like, get sleep, get rest, eat well, protect yourself physically, energetically, so that you could show up and have all cylinders firing and be able to give it your all, because it was so rewarding to be able to do that and be present and create these relationships. It was worth it. I don't care that I'm sick now. It was worth it. But like, you know what I'm saying? So I guess it was just reminding myself to like take stock and like, okay, am I eating? Am I sleeping? Like, and then try to, pay attention to that a little bit, I guess. Yeah.
Wisdom you would like to share? What one bit of advice or word of wisdom you would like to share with our guys?
I think I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning. Get your hands messy with every single role. If somebody asks you to help support their film and be a PA just to help them out, if you've never done that before, do it. If you know what I mean, try to wear every single hat that is involved in the filmmaking process so that you understand what it takes, because it's only going to make you better at the role that you really care about.
Thank you, Ryan. What did you learn and what advice did you give?
I learned that you can never be prepared enough, but ultimately like that we as a team belong in the arena. And that's really gratifying to see and say that the group that we did this with, can be doing this at the highest level, and that's exciting. And then for advice, make stuff. Always be making things. Like, if you want to be a director or a writer, an actor or whatever, make it. You can do it, like Max was saying, with your phone. And so the more stuff you make, the better you inevitably get, which means you make more stuff. So, and it starts to go that way.
Advice.
Yeah, what did you learn about yourself?
Oh, what did I learn about myself? I think over the 20, 30 some odd years I've been doing this, I've had different experiences. One, as an actor, I felt like I've done money jobs where nobody cared. I've done small roles where you just come in and out and it's kind of lonely and you do your job and you're gone and it's over. I've done roles where people, like I worked for David Mamet one time, who was very militant about just saying the words and not doing anything as an actor, and it felt very uncollaborative. But this reminded me of why I wanted to get in the business in the first place, and You know, like Ryan was saying, it's just all about creating, you know, and advice. I have one kid in film school that's graduating undergrad right now, and he's getting ready to go to his graduate program. And I tell him the same that Ryan said, you know, is you got to just keep creating, you know, create, create, create. And if somebody gives you notes, be humble enough to consider them. You don't have to take them, but if you are so precious about your material and what you're making that you're not receptive to people's criticisms or input, uh, it'll be to your detriment, you know. So be humble always and create. That's my advice.
Yeah, I think everybody gave such amazing points. I think the one thing that I would add to that is be of service. I think is one of the biggest things. Take the ego out of it, take anything out of it, and really try to step on the set and step into the work from a place of humility and of service. I know that the more that I focused on how can I help Ryan? How can I help this? How can I help my scene partner? You know, what does Max maybe need from me in this scene that I can give him to help him? The more I put my energy that place and not on what do I want to do, like blah, 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 blah. I think it just radiates out. And I could say from watching people in the past on other productions that maybe didn't do that, or it just showed me that the power of actually doing that. So be of service, be of service, be of service all the time. It's not about you. And then just, yeah, create, form a team, find your tribe, find your people, and don't wait on somebody else's permission to create something. Go out there and create it yourself, hire your friends, and work together.
Yes, very well, guys. Alexandra and Luis, can you bring up that hats, please? Luis, do you have yours? Yeah. All right. So, guys, this is super, super wonderful. We have them PFAW swag, Christina. I will marry you yours. But thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Christina, I'll marry, Christina, this is for you, I will, PM and get you, your address.
So cool.
But guys, I want to say very personally, two things. One, working on this film was amazing, just, getting cast because honestly, because of myself too, there was a lot of like, I thought, oh my God, I was so embarrassed with myself there, when I got it, I was so happy because one of my dream is always the captain role that I'm not specific, that just allow me to be a part of the storytelling. And I got to do that, and it was so collaborative, and what I love about the two is I get to make new friends, and I feel like I have a whole, my entertainment industry family is expanding. I think you guys are all amazing. Thank you so much, Christina. I wish you were here, but I give you a hug in person. I'm Ryan, Dave, and that. Thank you so much for taking time and me that was been time with us. Guys, let's give them a big hand.
Okay.
Thank you all. Thank you, Diana and the team. What a wonderful Meet the Biz. See you all next week.
Did it. Cheese.
Okay, guys.
Hey, Isaac. Hey, buddy. How are you?
On a day, yes, Jaleesa stepped down. You two, Momo, you kind of short. We're gonna make. No, leave that there. Step down. You're gonna say.
Momo, I see you.
We're doing, okay, that looks great. We'll need us to take a step up and stand in front of, Francisco. If you're fine where you are for now, good. Matthew, stand next to both of you. Yeah.
Yeah, I am. Wait, it's Matt back together.
One moment. I'll bring you guys out. We did over there. Not being a picture.
Well, we gotta get all the ink experience in we can.
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah, looking good so far. Alright.
Got it coming in there? Oh, that's good. From that angle, it's beautiful.
Alright. Everyone on three, hooray! One.
Beautiful.
Great. Awesome.